This is the Bronx. This is the place that gave the world hip-hop, graffiti, street art.
A true melting pot of immigrants coming to this community. I mean, it's always been a melting pot.
But this is a community that went through hell and survived. And there is a built-in intelligence in the community, a resiliency, a desire for not only survival, but for thriving.
This was a very active community in the 50s prior to Robert Moses creating the South Bronx Expressway. After that, there was this massive exodus.
A lot of the original people living there, you start to see them go. It's the late 1950s to the early 60s. People left, factories left, and these people that came in were left with next to nothing. And that's how you get the idea of the burning Bronx.
Block after block after block of rubble. Nothing but rubble, not a single building standing, until you see in the distance, several blocks away, buildings that had been burnt out that are just empty shells.
There was very little services. They shut down fire departments, public services. The city itself was bankrupt. But the South Bronx, as when the city went bankrupt, the South Bronx got even worse, right? So the analogy is like when New York City catches a cold, poor communities like the South Bronx catch pneumonia, because we suffer even more with infrastructure cutbacks than any other parts of the city, because we're always getting less.
I was, in a way, the word might be delusional, about that these things that I read about were things that lay in the past, in terms of double standards, in terms of neglecting the community, abusing the community. It was basically in 2012 that a situation presented itself, namely the proposed move of Fresh Direct. Fresh Direct is an online grocery store that wants to relocate to our neighborhood into one of the only slivers of land that we still had as a potential access point to our waterfront.
You're putting in a heavy diesel truck intensive business in the community, supposedly to create jobs, but all you get is the fumes from those trucks.
This is the neighborhood with the highest asthma rate in all of New York. It's a model of environmental racism. So they felt that they had the right to move here regardless of what the people of this community really felt. That was the catalyst, in a way, that brought together all the people that we were already friends to actually team up and act on all the knowledge we already possessed about the neighborhood, about the history of neglect and inequality and so on and so forth.
Some neighbors of ours came here, we met, and we started South Bronx Unite.
South Bronx Unite!
A local group of neighbors and allies and some organizations.
The other thing that happened in 2012 was that my wife, became pregnant with our only daughter, with Sulmarina. We had a moral, social, political responsibility to make this place work, not only for her, but for other kids and for future generations.
It was our responsibility as individuals who knew something was wrong, that was going on, to come together and try to create a different outcome. You know, since we co-founded or founded South Bronx Unite, we've noticed that more than environmental issues were at stake.
There have always been concerns about gentrification. People have always been stressed out about the possibility of having here in the neighborhood a situation similar to what Brooklyn and Williamsburg and the Lower East Side went through. People know that there are super rich investors and developers willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in our area.
Now, what you could have bought 5 years ago for, say, $200,000 is now they're asking $700,000. Big money interests come in, they buy up land, they build, the prices of rent goes up, it prices out folks, they have to go. So you can't live in the South Bronx or afford to live here, where else can you go in New York City?
Gentrification will happen, especially in big cities. You can't run away from that.
You get great transportation. The 4, 5, and 6 trains are right here. Obviously, the bridges are right here, and then you've got waterfront. Waterfront is valuable real estate. People want to be on the water. Will everybody be able to afford to stay? Probably not. And I think that's the issue that happens anywhere, where development is happening. There's a lot in construction now, but there's a heck of a lot more on the planning board, and so it's going to be pretty exciting to see where things are in 10 years here.
Not necessarily saying we don't want new people here, but we have to make sure those who suffered through the decades of the Bronx's burning and all the negative connotations around things that happened here in the 60s and 70s can be able to continue to stay in this community. You should want, as a developer or as a business person, should want to work with the community and not be adversarial with it.
South Bronx Unite has remained open all the time to meeting with all developers and everybody, actually. We've sent emails. We welcome developers to our James Walk.
This last walk we had back in May, one of the larger developers joined the walk to kind of hear, I guess, what we were going to say. And we had a great opportunity to hear what he had to say and get feedback right away in real time.
We'd love to see this turned into a bike lane going back to the Randall's Island connector, because people need access to exercise. They can go up the waterfront when it finally gets done. We want to build this together. There should be like a beautiful living wall here where we can have plants going up, so you don't have to, maybe you can still smell it, so you don't have to look at the waste management.
But we need to build that now, because the thing is that developers are planning and visualizing all of that after they build their developments for the new people. We need those amenities built now for the people that are already here in the community, that have formed this community and have made it so attractive. Like, we deserve that. We don't deserve everything to be built for outsiders.
We've been renting to Bronxites, and the fact that people think it's outsiders coming into the Bronx, I think, is a little bit of a misnomer. People who live in the Bronx want to stay in the Bronx, so some of the apartments we're building might seem nicer and whatnot.
Please don't use that argument, because that's
it's not all outside boroughs coming into 20-something units.
What we need, Joshua, from you though, is we need you to step outside of what's going to personally benefit you all's development and do it for the sake of the community. We should be able to have a civil conversation around what's logical. That when there's a problem that everybody can identify with in the community that you're developing in, where there's high rates of asthma, obesity, diabetes, lack of green space, lack of water access, lack of so much, poor schools, all the things we've mentioned throughout this tour, pick one, developers, and work with us on it.
We shouldn't have to move somewhere else to have what others have in their own communities. And we think the way it's been happening here is wrong, and we're going to just bring more light to it and create our own solutions.
This center was called the Lincoln Detox Center. Right now, this center's been closed now for 5 years, and because other publicly owned spaces around our community have been something that would go to larger developers who have deep pockets, we thought a solution would be to create a community land trust.
We looked at what would be the natural counterforce to the speculative real estate market, and we looked at community land trusts as being the answer.
The concept of community land trust, the idea is to take land off the real estate market in perpetuity for the benefit and usage of the community. What that means is that, in fact, it is the community that has to decide for what we use the land that we take off from the marketplace.
So this center, this building that we're trying to acquire for our community land trust, is about making sure this building that's now vacant can be owned by us. Not an individual, not an entity, not the city, not Citibank or Chase Manhattan, or us. to make sure we can do health, education, and the arts. So we're saying we're going to create a heart center.
We want to use it as a venue, as a community center, as an intersection of so many things that our community produces, okay? And how we've been doing that is in a very democratic way through visioning sessions. We partner with City College class from architecture.
Without the community involved, there's no community land trust. You can't create community vision without the community being involved.
This is about everybody in this neighborhood. It's about our children. It's about our seniors. It's about this entire community coming together for the first Mount Haven Health, Education, and the Arts Festival right here. To bring recognition to this building right here and the need this community has for making sure that we can better our health, our education for our children, and uplift the arts in our community. For far too long, we've been expecting that to come from somewhere else. But we need to do it ourselves.
Tenemos que estar unidos y unidas en la lucha. Todo aquí es lucha. Todo lo poquito que hay en el sur del Bronx ha sido producto de la lucha de la comunidad.
Everything means sweat, struggle, and that's the only thing that the little that we've ever accomplished is through those efforts. And it's all about solidarity, meeting, cohesion, having fun together, but putting your body on the line where it counts to claim what is rightfully ours.
The reality is, like Brother Michael says, it takes all of us. It takes a village to raise a child. It certainly takes a village to raise our community. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
I think a large portion of a population thinks they have no power to make a change. I think it does. I think the only thing that's ever made a difference is when people stand up.
I'm gonna keep fighting. There is always something that can be made better, can be made more just. So I'm gonna keep fighting.
Thank you.